And it's 8 o'clock and we're at the intersection. It's really good to see all of you this morning. I want to jump in quickly, but Emma just said I look fresh today. It's only because I have a hat on and I have a bad hair day. And yesterday afternoon, I drove up to Inks Lake, which is near Burnett, Marble Falls, Llano, to celebrate my youngest daughter's birthday. And I cooked supper, and my 2-year-old grandson and I made sponge cake with little sprinkle hearts inside of it for her. We had strawberry shortcake for her birthday cake. And anyway, and I'll be headed back your way soon. But it was just easier to do this. So I'm outside so that everybody hopefully keeps sleeping inside, all 2-year-olds and parents. So at 8:01, I'm wondering if somebody, somebody maybe on the other side could go and look for the landing page of Pathways to Hope 2023. And I'm going to make the announcement while somebody's finding that. But what I consider the best conference that happens in San Antonio. It's in its 8th year this year. And the theme is Better Together. So how we go through our mental wellness via compassion for self and others and in systems, which we'll be talking about today. But that Pathways to Hope is happening this year, August 25th and 26th at the Tobin. It's at no cost unless you decide to purchase lunch, which is at pre-COVID prices and actually half the cost of what's being paid for. So conference planners have been really working hard to make this reasonable, available. People from every direction show up at this, professionals, grandmothers, all of us walking through collective trauma, all of us having our own share and some more than our own share of mental health concerns. It's a Friday and a Saturday. There are breakout sessions and amazing keynote speakers, all of which we can find at the website. Does somebody have that website ready to share?
It's in
you
the
can
chat.
Find all the speakers. Share screen is open, so you can go ahead and do that. Thank you, Donna. And you'll see at the top there, it's pathwaystohope.net, pathwaystohope.net. And if she scrolls down, you'll see the agenda. But you can click on that and you can see all the workshops. You can see who the speakers are, what the time frame is like. And so you see, you can all read. I don't need to repeat any of that, but this is considered not just what I think is the best conference in San Antonio. Nationally, my colleagues in DC with the Department of Health and Human Services, the faith liaisons there, also think that this is the best conference in the United States that brings public and professionals, people of faith, and all of who are committed to healing in our world. And so you can see there where you can register. I encourage you, even while we're talking this morning, I don't think that that's a bad sidebar, to go ahead and register. Again, that's at no cost. And I also encourage you to take others with you, invite others, send out the information. I sent it out yesterday in the notification for this morning. So you also have the information there. We will be offering Spanish translation as well as sign language. So there you go. Doug or somebody, is there anything else you wish to add to my?
No, the thing that I've had people calling me from around the country who are flying in to come to this conference, who want to experience it. And I think one of the best things about this conference is you come in the lobby, you go to the workshops. For those of you who haven't been, it's community. I mean, it's a great place to come when you think you're the only person who's having to deal with a mental health issue in your family, and we've especially made this an important event for faith communities, because we need faith communities to be in the game and engaged. And all I can say is this will be the 8th year, and we've been incredibly blessed by the county and by the city and by a number of sponsors who have joined us this year. So if you come, you will not be disappointed.
Doug, I know since this has gotten national awareness and oomph behind it through NAMI National as well, how many other cities, number-wise about, are also participating, but from where
This
they
year,
are?
yeah, this year there'll be 14 other cities around the country who are holding their own Pathways to Hope conference. NAMI National is supporting that, and they have lined up national speakers as well, who they'll be pre-recording in plenary, so that each of these communities can develop their own conference and then have local workshops. So this is truly intended to be local conferences built around the local community and encouraging faith community involvement from the community in the conferences. So, I mean, this goes to the top of the NAMI organization nationally with the CEO and all his staff, who have absolutely been wonderful to work with and to help support this. They see the impact in San Antonio, and they're hoping for the same kind of impact around the rest of the U.S.
Thanks, Doug. And I want everyone to open up their mic right now. Everyone. I have to tell you that this ripple effect that was just described, which is precisely the work that we are doing, right? We're trying to make an impact and create that ripple effect and things that are replicable for other people. And this 8th year would not exist without Doug's dogmatic commitment to this effort. So I want everyone out loud to say, thank you, Doug. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug. Good stuff. Thank you. Yay.
I am the one who's blessed. Thank you all.
So,
and I do
yes.
have an announcement. Today is my birthday, so I'm celebrating more years than I can count at this point.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Doug.
Everybody put a little fireworks in your icon. Use your whatever those things are at the bottom. So we're going to have a few minutes of report in. Last week, Doug also raised the concern about a shooting that had happened the weekend prior. A woman, 3 police officers were involved, and Doug was like, we need to do something. So we're going to have a report in from those folks who did some talking outside of the intersection. I don't know who's doing that. So if you would just open your mic and tell us about it.
Well, I can lead off. I had a conference with about 4 of the people at the SAPD yesterday. Assistant Chief Falks was unable to be on at the last minute. She got called into a meeting with the city manager and the chief, and so I figured, they have priority. But we had a very good conversation. But the thing that I want to, and I think everybody in our community is just devastated by the death of Melissa Perez. The thing that I tried to emphasize yesterday is the importance of people in the community understanding the protocols that are available to people to call for help, and a better understanding of what the response is going to be. And I don't think that there's a widespread understanding. There are misunderstandings about what that process is going to be. So I'm going to work with the police department to help our members, NAMI members, and people in the community know more about what that process will look like when they call. I told them yesterday that I think the message that got sent to a lot of families is don't call the police. We don't want that to happen. We need the police. The CIT unit was incredibly helpful to my family 10 years ago when we really needed help. So we know that there can be better outcomes, and I think maybe this is a good time for SAPD and the city in conversation to think about what's a better way to conduct these interventions and to provide people with help. Erica, do you have anything you want to add?
I'm not in a position to kind of probe and ask, what are their next steps and what are they doing. I have shared with people where to find the protocols. They are publicly available on their website. You can literally see step by step what is required of them. I think it's also important to understand, and part of what Doug is talking about is there are multiple layers that SAPD has built in to respond to mental health needs. Every single officer receives 40 hours of training during the academy. They receive a refresher every 3 years, and that's the baseline. Then they have their crisis intervention team, which is all law enforcement officers who are specially trained to assist in these situations. And then there's a third special team that you've been hearing about as a pilot project called SA Core, which is a multidisciplinary team that includes a paramedic and a counselor on the team, as well as a law enforcement officer. And that has been funded to expand. So really, they have done extensive work compared to other police departments and have been nationally recognized for that effort. And I feel like what I have seen in the media is the chief coming out and saying 3 officers, one of them being very senior and leading the situation, did not follow the procedure. And everything they did was counter to the procedure and counter to what a person needs in that situation. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to do, but hopefully the groundwork is there.
I want to invite everybody, and I'm going to do this through NAMI. But if you call the SAPD and you have an incident and you have a response, I'd like to know what your experience is. So we're going to be surveying our members, because what I'm getting from the community is that there's not a consistency in their experience. I'll also say that this morning I had an email from Officer Philip Barnett outlining some increased training. I think once every 3 years for a refresher for 8 hours is apparently not going to do the job. And so Officer Barnett is reaching out to the mental health organizations to bring us more into the process, which had lapsed and had not been taking place. So I think we're all going to be working harder for better outcomes. But I need to know when there is an incident that doesn't turn out or doesn't go the way you think it ought to go. They need that feedback, and they've said that they're ready and willing to listen. So let's take them up on that. And if you have an experience that you don't think went the way it should, please call NAMI and or email me, and we want to hear about it.
You know what was also just described, if we looked at it as a system of what occurred and the follow-up, the engagement, that what we just listened to was compassionate accountability as well as compassionate respect in like every direction. So that follow-up and how it's being done is being done through compassionate skill sets. And I hope you can see those. If you can't see them, that's okay. We grow into them to be able to see like what's going on. So it's not like fight or flight. There's engagement, and our compassion skills can help us both systemically, but also personally within that process. We're going to also hear what NAMI courses and things like that. And I really want to get to the video within this half hour. Is anybody going to do that?
Yes, I'll go. Let me make sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. All right. So I first want to say that our NAMI general meeting is a good space that I feel like we're doing an incredible job helping the community understand about a community. We've been partnering with our specialty courts, especially the mental health courts, so that way our community can understand, you know, some of the processes and how to engage. But I also want to share about our Bridges to Care program and some of the new things that we're doing, because that's also how we're helping the community increase their awareness about mental health and mental illness, and how to partner and come alongside people with our training program. You know, our companionship training is one that teaches people how to really, you know, travel alongside someone to support them if they may be struggling with their mental health. Some of our newest programming has to do with our youth and equipping youth with knowledge about, you know, their mental health, and not just youth, but those who intersect, or those adults who are in youth lives. We want to equip them with the knowledge on how to support youth. So we have mindfulness, self-regulation, teaching self-regulation skills to youth, and learning, teaching them how to turn down that alarm that we all have, so that they can maintain their personal control. Learning about healthy boundaries. I'm smiling because I got a chance to go and teach that class to a group of teenagers. There's 12 of them, you know, and afterwards they actually had a lot to say about what they learned. Dr. Emma gives an incredible training on healthy relationships. And learning about how to identify when a relationship isn't healthy and what's healthy, as well as self-harm. So a hard topic for some, but it's one that is so needed, and learning that even more so, equipping parents with the knowledge on how to support their youth if they find out that they may be self-harming. And I will kick it over to Jerry Gregory, who's going to talk about, you know, our regular Bridges to Care training.
I want you to know at 8:20, we're shifting to the video because it's 7 minutes long, and I want to make sure everybody hears the video before 8:30.
Oh, Jerry, we can't hear you.
Jerry, we can't hear you, or I can't.
Right.
No, Jerry, we can't.
So I'll start off, and then if you pick up, I'll stop.
We got it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know that San Antonio is interested in mental health, and I'm just going to run down the numbers real quick. Since October of 2020, we have created over 800 wellness champions, meaning people that have committed to learn about mental health and become companions to those who are suffering with a mental health issue. Just this past year, since January of 2023, we have had 505 people attend our trainings, and that's no small feat. That's a lot of San Antonians, and there are a lot more San Antonians to come, and we have over 20 training courses in mental health that we offer to congregations and organizations.
Thank you, Jerry. Real quick, we have a new wellness program, and that wellness program is Wellness Education for Life Learning. We go in to help support healthy cultures, being for business, organizations, small groups, or schools. And we are just going then to help them break down the mental health myths and encourage them for positive mental health conversations. And my time is up, but this one is for a fee, and it is a blessing to the organizations. We are going into like Judson, into Bernie, So if you know some other organizations that you think we need to go in, please contact us. Thank you. We put it back in your hands, Ann.
Thanks, Emma. And why don't I think what I'll do the next time I get the notice of the trainings, I'll send it out to the intersection list, and then they will have those contacts. And it's 8:20 and I'm going to shift to the video, and I'm really hoping that NAMI Bridges picks up the materials from Compassionate USA and utilizes those. This morning, while I bring it up, is on self-compassion. And I ask you to ponder the question, what does self-compassion have to do with compassion in our systems?
You are such an idiot. You look fat in that outfit. You should work out. I can't believe you made the same mistake again. You're never going to get yourself together. Everyone's going to laugh at you. You should just give up. Were you shocked to hear me say such cruel and harsh things to someone? How many of you have said these terrible things to yourself? Researchers say that most people have over 50,000 thoughts per day, and for some people, 80% of those thoughts are negative. Unfortunately, that harsh inner critic is often the voice we hear most. We say things to ourselves we would never say to a loved one, a friend, or even a complete stranger. But we live in a society that discourages us from owning our gifts and celebrating our skills and talent. Our tendency to criticize ourselves can help us evaluate our actions and behavior so we can improve and grow. Sometimes we point out our flaws and shortcomings to receive validation and approval from others. However, when our inner critic dominates our thoughts, it can lead to serious harm, including depression, perfectionism, and anxiety. It can also hinder our resilience and create roadblocks in our relationships with others. Kristen Neff is a psychologist, professor, author, and pioneer in the field of self-compassion research. She has been recognized as one of the world's most influential research psychologists in her field. Dr. Neff will explain the vital role that self-compassion can play in bringing more balance and harmony to our lives.
When I first started research on self-compassion 20 years ago, the first thing I did was create a scale to measure it. I tend to be kind to myself when things are difficult. I tend to beat myself up. And if you're interested in actually determining how self-compassionate you are, you can go to my website, selfcompassion.org, and you can actually take the test, and it'll tell you how self-compassionate you are. So that's the formal way. The easy way to figure out how self-compassionate you are is just ask yourself, how do I treat my friends versus how do I treat myself? Actually, most of us, we find, treat ourselves much more harshly, we're more judgmental than we are to our good friends. That's where self-compassion steps in. It's there for us in the good times, but especially when we fail, when we make mistakes. Self-compassion says, hey, that's okay, it's only human, I'm here for you. How can we, just try again? There are actually 3 components of self-compassion. In addition to kindness and warmth, there's also mindfulness. In other words, we need to be aware when we're struggling so that we can be there for ourselves. And then finally, really important, compassion is a connected way of being. It recognizes that everyone is imperfect, and this is what differentiates self-compassion from self-pity. So self-pity is self-focused, woe is me. Self-compassion is saying, hey, I'm a human being doing the best I can. There are a lot of misgivings about self-compassion, reasons why people are afraid to give themselves this support and kindness. One, in fact, is that it's going to make them weak. What we know from the research is it's just the opposite. Self-compassion makes you stronger and more able to cope with difficult life circumstances. So for instance, we know combat soldiers who are self-compassionate about the trauma they experience, they're less likely to develop post-traumatic stress syndrome, they're more able to function in daily life. And if you think about it, life's a battle, right, for everyone. And so who's going to make you stronger? If the voice inside your head is an ally saying, I'm here for you, what do you need, how can I help? Or if the voice is an enemy saying, you're terrible, I hate you, it's all your fault. Being a friend to yourself when times are difficult really helps you get through with more resilience. Another big block to self-compassion is the belief that it's selfish, but it doesn't work that way. Compassion is additive. In other words, the more compassion flows inward, the more we have available to give to others. Another misconception about self-compassion is that it's just giving yourself a break, being easy on yourself, which easily equates to self-indulgence. But self-indulgence means giving yourself pleasure in the short term at the expense of long-term harm. If you care about yourself and you want to alleviate your suffering, then you aren't going to do that. The number one block to self-compassion is the belief that it's going to undermine our motivation. We really think that we need to be hard on ourselves in order to motivate change. And the thing is, self-criticism does kind of work as a motivator, but it works the same way harsh criticism works to motivate children. So if a child gets a failing grade, yeah, you can motivate that child to do better by punishing them. There are consequences to doing that. For instance, that child may develop anxiety because they know if they fail, they're going to be considered stupid. They may just give up. They may not know that it's okay to fail, that that's how we learn. So self-compassion is much more like when we motivate that child with encouragement. You can do it, I believe in you, but really importantly, how can I help you achieve your goals? And the research is very clear that it's more effective than self-criticism. We've developed a lot of empirically supported self-compassion practices over the last 10 years or so as part of the Mindful Self-Compassion program. So some of these are quite simple. For instance, self-compassionate letter writing. You can either imagine that a very compassionate person was writing to you, or you can imagine that a good friend you cared about was going through the same situation you were and write a letter to them, and then kind of just slip your own name in the end. There was one study that found if you do that every day for 7 days, it reduces depression for 3 months and increases happiness for 6 months. So it's a lot of benefit for not that much work. Another good way to give yourself compassion is through physical touch. Through evolution, we're designed to experience touch as a signal of care. That's primarily how parents communicate compassion to infants who can't speak. So you can put your hands on your heart, put your hands on your face, maybe on your stomach, give yourself a hug. And it actually changes your nervous system, activates. So you help calm yourself, you help physically support yourself in a way that's simple and really effective. So the good news is it's not as difficult as you think to practice self-compassion because we already know how to be compassionate toward others. You just need to do a little U-turn and use those skills that you normally use with others toward yourself. And you can give compassion to yourself anytime, in times of success and happiness, but also in times of really difficult challenge and failure.
We hope you enjoyed this video. For more resources and to continue learning, please visit the link and join the Compassionate USA Skills course.
So at 8:28, which is our usually pause minute, one, I don't know about all of you, but I couldn't be any more proud of our San Antonio and our city and the work that we're doing. I mean, I watched that video and I think, we did that in San Antonio. I think about Pathways to Hope and we did that. And in all these cases, we're doing that. And what really makes me proud too is the ripple effect and how we're sharing it and moving it on beyond ourselves. Right? So at 8:29, and those who might have to leave us, I'm so glad that you were able to attend this morning and get some update on what has happened since that shooting a week and a half ago or so. And that we are moving as a community and we're using our compassion skills to do so, as well as hearing about the trainings with NAMI and Bridges to Care. And I've been seeing those things posted in chat. So next week we will be coming back together and going on to the next video, which right now off the top of my head, I cannot recall the name of it. I think it might be on gratitude, interdependence. But You saw at the end of the video where you can find all of those. They're straight there. Compassionate, make sure it's ATE at the end of compassion, CompassionateUSA.org. And that gets you to the landing page, but that gets you to everything, even on the landing page. You just scroll down into that page and you'll find all the videos there. It's an easy find, and you click on there. And all the videos hover around 7 minutes in length. And you can utilize those for yourself. I know somebody who's a counselor who is starting to utilize those to tell their clients, you know, but you might want to watch this later between now and the next time we meet, and it might help you retain. And so people are using them in study groups and in different ways. So there's also a micro course. So see you next Thursday for the next video in this series. So now to open it up, and you know, you can raise your hand or open the mic. I just want to kind of move into kind of conversational. What I like about these videos, and I've been experiencing with another group that I'm doing likewise with, is how it opens up conversation. That there are points that come up that are like, well, I've never thought of it that way, or well, that's handy. I never put those two things together, or, you know, I'm not quite clear on, but then there are these great conversations that come out of that, which also then help us to develop and use a more common language around our own mental health and wellness. So I'm curious for anybody here, if there was an idea that came up that struck you, something you're not clear about, not that we have the answers, but we can talk about those things. Something that's an easy go-to maybe in your future. Who's going to be the bold one? Is that you, Sam?
Yeah, as usual, right?
Yeah, that surprises me that he's being
Yeah,
bold, Sam.
like for me, I mean, I just turned 60 last month, so I've had a pretty first half of my life was pretty rough. It was very self-destructive. I think once I gave my life to my creator 20 years ago when I got divorced and I got my 4 kids back, it's been this road of constant self-searching, of constant healing, of constant uh, finding ways to get over my past, get over my trauma, deal with it. But it has to do with everything that this video talked about. It's really kind of dealing it with ourselves, you know, and how to what that we do, obviously, as social workers and people that help. But like for me, I do 2 orientations a week, which averages about 15 to 20 people per orientation. Co-facilitate about 4 classes, so I talk to about at least 100 people. And people are always hiding things. People are always wearing masks, and people are always changing their answer. I'm somebody who's really good at listening. So when somebody says something the first time and then an hour later in the class, they're talking about the same thing, but they change it a little. I'm like, hey, well, earlier didn't you say like, oh yeah, you're right. Well, see, those people are constantly lying to themselves because they don't even know it. We come to the truth of our own true understanding and what we went through, and then try to deal with it. You know, I mean, we got something here. We always say trauma not transformed is transferred. If we don't start learning how to transform all of our trauma, we're just going to continue to have a lot of issues. So this whole thing about self-compassion is very, very important.
It makes me think too, Sam, that this path isn't like a linear path, right? Like we get ourselves all, you know, straightened away, and then we can move on to others, or even, you know, our own self. You know, it's constant, it's spiral kind of, and it overlaps, and you return to, and it's messy, and it's wonderful, and it's painful, and it's important. You know, other thoughts and things that you heard today. Just open your mic.
Yes, I wanted to share something. So whenever we had the presentation over there at the in front of the city manager's office, right? What I remember Sammy saying that trauma that's not transformed is transferred, and that has stuck with me since he stated that. Because when it comes to ACEs, you know, one of the questions that I had asked when it was first presented to us from Dr. Bridger was, is there a way to reverse the effects of the trauma? And it is, right? We're working and avoiding those type of behaviors with our current children, and then their children, they won't physically abuse or mentally abuse or discuss with them wrongly. And so hearing the video about self criticizing, that kind of stuck with me, you know, as a youngster, because I was always like, you know, my dad was very tough with us, and I was always like, am I doing enough? Did I do good? Am I not gonna get, I mean, I would want a pat on my back, but sometimes, you know, it would be different. It's like, am I not gonna get that? And so as an adult, sometimes I tend to ask myself, and I was just talking with my husband yesterday, it's like, I know that we're doing a great performance, we're doing productive and amazing work, but sometimes I still ask myself, is it enough? Can I do better? And so it's just interesting to hear that about loving yourself, right? And being self-compassionate to yourself, and give yourself a hug and pat yourself on the back and tell yourself it's going to be okay, because what we put out there in the universe, we receive back. You want to put out positiveness and hope and joy and love and strength and harmony, and we'll receive it in return. And so I just love that, what you said about that, Sam, and in the chat, as Paul stated, what would happen if we shared our compassionate insight with our own family members and asked them for feedback? What worked for them? Who else needs to hear and see the material? How's this making a difference? You know, we're doing that. Like, I have 3 college level kids in my house. I have my grandkids, a 12-year-old. And so I asked them, well, how is it over there? And what would make a difference? And what words can stick? And so I'm so, I love hearing these videos and seeing where it's going to take us in the community.
Sammy has his hand up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Sonia said. And this is something I'm always preaching to people, whether it's my clients or just strangers at HEB, then in the line when it's too long and I'm just talking as usual to everybody. I'm always telling people you can't give something away that you don't have. So if you're somebody who can't love yourself, it's very difficult to love other people. If you're not somebody who has compassion within yourself, it's hard to be compassionate towards other people. If you don't have empathy, you cannot be empathetic. I tell people all the time, if you want to have these characteristics and principles, these are things that we ourselves have to seek out individually in order to have them to flow out of us. Because what we put in us eventually is going to come out of us. So what we put through our eyes, through our touch, through our smell, through every sense that we have, eventually is what we fill ourselves with, is what comes out freely. So like she said, I'm somebody who's huge on positivity. I get up every day, I post scriptures on my Facebook, I share, you know, my beliefs, you know, with others and my family. But I really stick to those things. You know, I do my best not to get off the path of Bible calls it righteousness, to do the right thing at all times with integrity. But it's a hard path to walk. I always tell people, I mean, we're naturally born sinners, so that's easy to do. You know, to walk a path of righteousness is a little more difficult, but it's more rewarding in the end. Because when I look at my sinful ways to now my spiritual ways, you know, I would never go back to my fleshly ways ever. So,
And I'm going to add to that. One of the things, as I started to do more study and practice in terms of compassion, where I got the greatest of hope was scientific. So you've spoken of spiritual, but the scientific, neuroscientific research tells us that, one, compassion is a part of our DNA. It's how we're created. But this is the one that gives me the greatest hope, and, you know, like for everybody and for myself, right, is that our bodies, due to our neuroplasticity, which is this stuff in our brains of that we put in there and the things, how we practice and keep repeating different things in our lives for better or for worse, right? But we have the capacity through neurogenesis to literally reroute our super highways in our brain. And how we reroute it happens through sheer repetition. The more we practice something, so think about the Spurs or somebody practicing, right? They practice, and then they go to game and they practice so that they don't have to think during the game. They have formed strong super pathways in their brain. So compassion skills, just like self-compassion, it's a skill that takes practice, and it's so many more things than that term, self-compassion. You know, it's awareness, it's breathing, it's moving, it's getting good rest. It's by practicing those things, we are creating new superhighways in our brain. That gave me so much hope. I mean, I was just like, what? You mean this thing that keeps happening, I can like reroute that in my life? And the answer is yes, because I have done it again and again by intentionally repeating, not, you're an idiot. I love the way sort of that video last one began. It took me off guard. You're such an idiot. We keep repeating that. And it's not like we're routing our brains when we do that. So to repeat other things will strengthen in other ways. We're at 8:41. Arthur has his hand up. We have time, I think, for one or two more comments, and we have things happening too in chat, so you might be looking there.
I'd like to say that I wholeheartedly affirm everything that has been said. I believe we don't have to look far to see many efforts in our culture that are sowing chaos and have intentionally from all directions. But I'd like to point out two areas that I'm very involved in. One is the care for the environment, and one is the nuclear threat. And I hate to say the word tsunami, but it's kind of like that. These are very serious issues for us to deal with. But both of these issues, the people who have spoken about these have talked about internal conversion. And I think that that's exactly what we're talking about. It begins with us. You know that song, "Let There Be Peace on Earth and Let It Begin with Me." I know it's been said a whole lot, and people, oh yeah, there's that song. But I think it's very meaningful. And so I want to wholeheartedly affirm what has been said, and in no way underestimate. I think all morality is grounded on affirmation. It's been my entire profession. The grounding of my profession is to teach and reinforce self and other affirmation. And I don't see how you can have other affirmation if you don't have love of yourself. So right on.
And it also makes me think of things like somebody said in chat about mantra, having a mantra.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're such an idiot is a mantra, by the way, but having a mantra, but it makes me think of things like prayer, like the Lord's Prayer, for example. And I know there are other prayers, there's other mantras. Let's see, Pledge of Allegiance is a mantra. But I don't know if this has happened to anybody else, but if you're on a plane and that thing drops, it happens to me, but I often wonder what percentage on the plane in that instant started to say whatever that prayer was that they always reach to. Our Father art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom. Yeah. I often want to, like when we settle out, I want to stand up and go, okay, how many people here in a split second? That was neuroplasticity and neurogenesis at work, repeating those things. So we practice repeating precisely for the moment, like when the plane drops, when we need it. It's just like a basketball player practicing. They make their greatest move when they need it the most because they practiced. And the rest of us can go, oh, did you see that? In amazement of what that basketball player has done, right? The same, it's exactly that for all of us when it comes to compassion and practicing. And then we can celebrate it. And so I think there's two sides to that. I know that recently somebody who's here on the screen, who was with us at the launch, the local launch for Compassionate USA, came to me in much care and love and encouraging my own self-compassion. We can do that for others, right? We can see when someone else, I mean, we can help care and offer more compassion, but part of that can be, you need to go take care of yourself, right? But the same is true for ourselves. We know, and I remember from last week's, the little stoplight, remember that Poonam was talking about the green and the yellow and the red. If we're aware, we know where we are in that, right? And so to be able to tell ourselves, oh, I'm in the yellow zone and I'm either going to go into red and shut down, or I'm going to go into the red and stop where I am. Self-care and move back into the green. And breathing is the number one practice, but practicing is what's key. Repeating over and over. And we can also do that together. So I'm going to bring this to a close at 8:46. It's been great seeing all of you this morning, and also knowing that we're a growing community. I had asked in chat of Sonia how many folks are in our contact list for this group, which is over 400, and how we get about 10% of that number, which science also tells us is the tipping point. If we can get 10% of the dominant culture moving in a direction, the rest will tip in that direction too. But I want to set a goal that we get more than 10%. The more we get into this, the more ripple effect we're going to have. So again, I encourage you always to bring somebody with you. Tell others about this. Please tell them about Pathways to Hope and what's happening with NAMI and the courses we can take. And please use these free resources that San Antonio created and is gifting to the world. We should be humbly proud of that. I am. It's some place to put our feet on the ground, isn't it? I'm proud of our city. And we still got a long way to go, right? Have great days. I understood earlier it was sprinkling. I hope we get a rain. Rain is a very lovely environmental, compassionate expression, don't you think? Have a great day. Bye.